Over the 3-day Wellington anniversary weekend, Steam Incorporated held an open weekend at their Paikakariki depot, featuring JA1271 and AB608 in steam, with a pair of DA-class diesel locomotives in operation as well. Of course, there was a lot more to see besides the 4 active locomotives. Starting early in the morning, we see DFB 7158 crossing over onto the down line through Paikakariki with train 200, the 7:55 Wellington to Auckland service, otherwise known as the northbound Northern Explorer. After going to that funny little bakery for breakfast, I had a quick butcher's on the platform. Paikakariki is tied with Takapu Road for being one of my favourite stations on the Wellington suburban network. I always like seeing old NZR buildings, and in this case it's got a signal box as well, still standing at a modern station. Other examples of such an arrangement include Carterton, Plympton, Melling, and Remuera up in Auckland. Despite the distinctly different architecture, I still consider Melling to be an NZR era building because it was built in the 1950s. Here's AB608 running up and down the demonstration line before the main event opened. This 462 Pacific was built in 1915, and she is named Passchendaele in honour of the New Zealand railwaymen who served and lost their lives during World War I. This rather old bus was providing a shuttle service between the station car park and the depot. Leave a comment below if you know what type of bus this is. Due to the lack of safe pedestrian access, this was the only way of getting to the depot if you couldn't park there in the main car park. We step off the bus to find the steam locomotive J1234 on static display next to the car park. This 482 tender engine was built by the North British Locomotive Company of Glasgow, Scotland in 1939, though sadly she hasn't run under her own power for around 20 years. I arrived as early as possible so I could have a go at driving JA1271 before the queues got too long. Visitors were able to drive a steam locomotive up and down the siding to the mainline connection for $50.
I've never seen things come like that before.
Because I needed to concentrate on driving, I wasn't able to film the short run. As for my thoughts on the experience, for starters it's quite surreal that it actually happened. Sure, I could have taken AB608 instead, and I don't mean to discredit the AB, but JA1271 has historical connections to Tauranga because she used to haul the Jazz Festival excursions between 2009 and 2011. And I had also been running JAs in Train Simulator a few times before meeting the real thing again. Naturally, you were accompanied by an experienced driver who told you what to do with the controls. I found that, even with the regulator open a tiny bit, the locomotive felt like she had so much power she could accelerate like a rocket. Or the Class 484 electric unit as depicted in Train Sim World 3. But as we were just going up and down a short length of track, I didn't go any faster than 15 km per hour. In all honesty, I was worried that I would make a fool out of myself by screwing something up in an embarrassing way, similar to the times when SpongeBob kept ripping his trousers whilst he was at the beach. I decided to go back and have a closer look at J1234. I didn't notice when I first showed up, but people were able to climb on this engine's footplate as well, thus providing a basic footplate experience without the noise and heat of a working steam locomotive. And indeed, whilst I was on the footplate, loads of other people, mostly families, came up and had a butcher's as well. I went on to explain what the basic driver's controls did, as well as giving a brief history on J1234 herself. But at no point did I claim to be an absolute expert on steam locomotives. Moving over to a nearby shed, we find a Price TR-160 and the ex-Orhei Mitsubishi diesel shunter stabled alongside the 15A Garrett. I noticed other people were climbing up to the TR's cab, so I thought I'd have a look in there as well. In the next shed over, you can see 3 locomotives in various stages of restoration. These were KA945, DC4375 and DA1471. The DC currently retains the Max Blue livery from her days in Auckland commuter service. The ex-Dunedin Railways coaches were parked on the turntable, with A3022 being used as an air-conditioned space for people to sit down and eat their food. Although in saying that, there were only 2 food trucks in attendance. Standing in the coach reminded me of a similar 56-footer used on the Gisborne City Vintage Railway. As you can see from this footage, AL56129 is the only proper coach in the whole consist, with the others being rebuilt FM guards vans. As it was getting close to 2 o'clock, the depot's closing time, I went back to the village on the same elderly bus. And once that was done, I went through the hassle of taking the rail replacement bus all the way down to central Wellington, in order to catch up with a friend I've known since kindergarten in 2005. The next day I went back to the depot again, and this was Monday, January 23, the last day of the event, which also happened to be a public holiday. I intentionally waited until Monday to go for a cab ride with DA's 1410 and 1431. This cost me $20.
608 on the move.
Until this event, I didn't realise that DA 1431 had a rear walking platform while 1410 doesn't have one. 1431 is notable for being the only Australian-built DA to survive into preservation, having been built by Clyde Engineering rather than General Motors in Canada. To try and stay in the shade, especially since I forgot to bring sunblock, I went back to J1234's footplate. Once again I went on to explain the basic driver's controls and locomotive's history to some of the people who visited the engine. And of course I did not hog the driver's seat whilst on 1234. After at least another hour with J1234, I noticed that the Mitsubishi Shunter's cab was open. This locomotive was built in 1967 for the Ōhei Railway Board in Southland, but she never served with NZR despite being largely identical to their Mitsubishi DSAs. At this point I was ready to leave the depot, and got back to the station in time to film some of the last few demonstration runs of the day. Our last catch of the day was DFB 7158, returning from Auckland with the Northern Explorer. Besides this passenger train, there were no other KiwiRail services running through Paekākāriki for the whole day. We'll end with a couple of shots from the nearby beach, where you can get a good view of Kapiti Island.